So I see my job today in the next 18 minutes is to get you excited about unleashing the biogas potential of Australian agriculture. So can I just have a show of hands? Who knows what a biogas plant is? Okay. Yeah, we're probably in a pretty skewed audience, aren't we, really? I will get you, though, to do something for me. Take your left hand and put it on your stomach. And I'm now telling you that you are intimately connected to a biogas plant. So every day you consume, ideally in incremental bits and not one great humongous meal at the end of the day, but that you feed your biogas plant incrementally during the day with a mix of protein, carbohydrates and fats. You use your macerating system to chop it all up. It travels down your in-feed system into your biodigester, where your temperature, your body regulates your temperature at around about 37 degrees. It gets macerated by the action of going through and digested and agitated by the activity of going through your system. You derive energy from it, and there's a liquid, gaseous and solid phase output from the process. So you actually all understand biogas plants intimately, is my contention. What is biogas? Biogas is basically, it's a natural gas, obviously. It results from the natural breakdown of organic material in the absence of oxygen or in a low oxygen environment. Typically, when you're using organic waste, organic materials like manures or food waste or any of the kind of organic waste, agricultural residuals, you will get about 60% methane concentration. The rest of it will be largely carbon dioxide, a little bit maybe, depending on what waste you're treating, of hydrogen sulfide. And basically you can then use that gas just like you would natural gas. So you can actually use it for cooking, you can use it for heating, you can put it in a combustion engine and generate electricity. You can utilise then the thermal energy off that process. You can put it in a microturbine and do the same thing, generate electricity and recover a thermal heat from it. Or, as they do in a lot of places in Europe, you can also upgrade the gas so that it has a higher concentration of methane and put it back into the natural gas grid, which is what they do in several countries in Europe. So what is the biomethane potential of various substrates? So we kind of get the thing that if we eat certain foods, we have certain levels of energy. It's kind of the same in a biogas plant. Different organic materials have different biomethane potential. We've set up a laboratory in the Brisbane Technology Park where we, as part of the development of our biogas projects, we test the wastes, or the substrates as we call them, for their biomethane potential. And that little graph is just showing for every tonne of particular materials how many cubic metres of biogas you could expect to generate from that process. One of the other key things in doing sort of industrial scale electrical generation sort of based biogas plants is you want to kind of optimise the biogas production so that you're getting obviously good returns and on your capital investment. And often what happens in Europe is they'll have a co-substrate biogas plant where basically there maybe is municipal sewage might be one of the primary wastes that are treated in the plant, but then they'll bring food processing waste, municipal organic waste collected, source separated waste collected from the community, and animal manures perhaps, and other organic waste streams. So that's kind of a it's fairly mainstream infrastructure in other parts of the world. So what does a biogas plant actually look like in an industrial version? Basically you have, a bit like us, that one's actually lacking it, but you can feed in, just like we can eat solid and liquid, the biogas plant can do the same thing. So you can have solid waste, so that could be solid manures, it could be food waste, it could be cropping residuals. That would typically go into some kind of macerator, just like our teeth. It would be macerated up. You can also then bring in liquid waste streams, which might be very dilute wastes, like say pig effluent or sewage. and you can basically mix them together. So we generally have an in-feed receival system. The optimal total solids ratio for a typical continually stirred tank reactor biogas plant, which is the type of biogas plants we're talking about, is about 8% solids. So what you do is you sort of condition up the in-feed material in order to sort of achieve a fairly optimal rate. Typically, the two digesters are then in parallel. So you feed both of them essentially at once. It's continually fed, which is just like our system, it prefers to be fed on a smaller basis, on a regular basis. So does a biogas plant. It's agitated periodically, generally half an hour for 5 minutes. Could vary depending on the substrate. In those tanks, there's what's called an internal gas storage system. So basically, it's a twin foil. The biogas is captured inside that twin foil. For those of you that may have travelled through some of the Nordic countries in Europe, like Norway and Sweden and others, you might have noticed these strange things that look like hot air balloons coming out of the ground. They're actually external biogas balloons, so they're a similar thing. They're storing biogas from a biogas plant, it's just they're external to the tank. So they're the kind of things. Typically in there you'll have some kind of scrubbing to remove any H2S. We use biological scrubbing for that process. You'll then knock out the condensate because it's a wet gas and send it into the genset or directly use it to burn it. With the digestate, essentially what happens is as the material comes into the plant every day, tonne by tonne, you also have the digestate then flowing out at the other end. There's typically, with most substrates, about a 25-day residence time inside the digester. That can vary depending on what you're treating. With the digestate, typically in Europe, they directly apply it to land. So they tend to store it in tanks. They're not allowed to store it in the ground like we are able to. They can store it in tanks and they'll put it, you'll see up there a picture of a really funky tractor with a big spray boom, and that's them hooking up. They go in, hook up to the biogas plant, suck out the digestate and go and run it up and down their farms. In Australia, we're experimenting with different methods than that because sometimes it's not applicable to use the digestate on the site where the facility is. And so we're working to develop some smarter techniques to value add the digestate into a biofertiliser, both a solid phase and a liquid concentrate, so that our vast distances, which is one of our challenges, we aren't shipping water around, which is obviously not very smart in Australia to transport fertiliser with water in it. So why would farmers be interested in biogas? Interestingly, in 1989, the first agricultural biogas plant, CSTR biogas plant, was implemented in Berrybank Piggery in Victoria. Since that time, we have had a deployment of none. In that time, Germany, I think at that stage, had 110 biogas plants. They now have 6,000. They're building them at a rate of 130 a month because they've set a target to have to double their installed electrical capacity, and I'll show you the graph of that shortly. But why would farmers now, so okay, 23 years ago there was only a few pioneers that were thinking about it in Australia. Why would now that be different? And the thing that we're finding, I've been in this for 10 years and it's really now starting to, I guess, get a bit of a tipping point going, primarily because of the energy prices. All of a sudden, with prices going up by 18 to 20%, really what farmers, food processors, wastewater treatment plant operators, waste haulers, waste managers are looking for now is ways to I guess, secure their long-term energy cost and to be more self-sufficient in their electricity. And they have this untapped source of organic material that they can recover energy from, and it's just sitting there in ponds, dams, piles, whatever. And so I think now we've sort of reached that tipping point, and I think that's pretty exciting. I'm hoping you're getting excited because my goal, as I said, was to get you excited about biogas. And we're definitely, the other thing that I think is exciting for people is it offers farms and food processors and other organic waste producers the opportunity for new revenue streams. So revenue streams that they haven't had access to before. So when you structure a biogas asset, just like building the assets of a piggery where you have your different shed types, your different layout, all those kinds of things, you know, farmers are used to structuring their agricultural assets. Well, when you structure your biogas asset, Essentially, you look for where you can get either avoided costs or revenues at the in-feed end, so from treating your own waste or treating someone else's waste and getting gate fees to do that. Obviously, the energy, you either look to offset your own energy cost or you can sell the energy to somebody else. You can certainly generate large generation certificates. And depending on which project and the methods in development, you can also generate Australian carbon credit units. The other thing then is obviously getting returns from the biofertiliser out the back end. So just to give you an idea, I mentioned that Germany's at the top of the league table. Sweden and Norway and Switzerland are also way up there. In Asia, we're way behind Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, other places, Japan, and even New Zealand is ahead of us. And, you know, we hate New Zealand beating us at something, so I really implore everyone to get excited about this and decide that we are not going to let New Zealand beat us, and we are going to get off the bottom of the league table, because right now we're so at the bottom of the league table. So what I thought I would do is sort of do a bit of a snapshot comparison between agriculture in Germany and agriculture in Australia, because there's always a bit of a tendency in Australia to go, yeah mate, well, you know, their agriculture is so different and, you know, we can't do that because, you know, it's just too hard and for this reason and da-da-da. But actually, when you look at it, okay, there's some fundamental differences. We have half the number of farms that they have, but our farms are 10 times as big. We have a hell of a lot more available land than they do. They are more people intensive and more animal intensive in their facilities. But I don't think those two sets of data sitting up there side by side says that Australia should be at the bottom of the league table. I think Australia should be aiming to be closer to the top of the league table, and that's why I think there is a tremendous potential to unleash biogas in agriculture. So where we stand at the moment, there's 47 megawatts of installed bioelectrical capacity from biogas in Australia. 24 of those projects are sewage treatment plants, and 3 of them are, 2 are agriculture and 1 is food waste processing. In Germany, there's 2,200 megawatts of installed capacity. About 1,000 of those are sewage treatment plants. It's actually been compulsory in Europe for about 30 years to capture and utilise the methane from anaerobic digestion used as part of sewage treatment. There's 24 sites in Australia. Although I have heard a really cool one, someone once raised a really cool case study. Apparently about 40 years ago in a little tiny weeny wastewater treatment plant in somewhere in South Australia, some bloke went and hooked up the anaerobic digester to a little genset, and it's been running apparently ever since, so that's kind of cool. So, yes, so we do have 24 of those projects. So we're a long way behind, and I think that there's really no excuse for us moving our way up the league table. So I hope I'm getting you excited about the prospect, about the size and the scale of the opportunity. The CSIRO came out with a report last year that suggested that, and I'm pretty sure it was constrained only to urban organic waste streams, there's about 20 million tonnes of organic waste a year that costs about $10 billion to dispose of. In installed bioelectrical capacity, that's in theory about 500 megawatts. So that's something going begging, absolutely going begging. This is our project pipeline. We've actually got 6 projects that are active projects and another 14 that we've done feasibility and pre-feasibility work on. If you look up there, that's a portfolio of potentially around $55 million. That's about 13 megawatts of installed capacity. Our goal by 2020 is 20 megawatts of installed capacity, and yeah, that's probably about a 30 to 40 million, a $60 million, $70 million asset portfolio. This is real renewable energy. It's mainstream, and it's a really big opportunity for farmers because the waste stream is actually going begging. And not only that, I think the other aspect, not just from renewable energy, but we buy fertiliser from all over the world. It gets transported and ding-and-donged all over the countryside and transported huge distances. We actually have the potential to utilise our organic waste streams, derive the energy from it, recover water from that process, in the first instance as wash water, but it can actually be improved so that it can be higher grade water, and produce a biofertiliser that can potentially displace nitrogen-based fertilisers. So I think it's a massive opportunity. I'm excited about it, and I hope you are. So are you excited? Yes. Did I do my job? Yes. Does everyone in the room now know what a biogas plant is?